talked about yesterday? Get the lights correct. We talked about terracotta clay. We talked about the different types of pots, but for the most part, terracotta clay. Ezekias was one of the most famous pot makers or ceramicists. He was all about the design. There's those. We also talked about how the Greeks were about perfection. They were trying to search out the perfect body, the perfect proportions. They eventually got to the Krios boy, which had contrapasto, which is the shifting of body weight. So you're going to be able, or need to be able to tell on an opportunity. If I throw you an image, I'll say, is this contrapasto or not contrapasto? It has the shifting of body weight or a knee bend, such as this one. This has contrapasto. They're shifting the body weight. Then the Greeks got so good that they wanted to try and contort these bodies. How could they represent humanity in very extreme ways?
I wonder how long it took on carving this down.
A while. Quite a while.
What if you messed up?
There was no mess.
Then you
Check
restart.
that.
No, if you messed up, you got to get a new piece of marble. All right, next image today. It is the Venus de Milo. You're going to write this one down. Venus de Milo. Yes, this is how it actually looks. I've been around for thousands of years. Venus de Milo. All right, Andros of Antioch is the sculptor, made out of marble. Venus, what does that stand for? Who is Venus?
Goddess.
Goddess of love, goddess of love. So this is the goddess of love that they found in Antioch. This is for worshiping. Have you guys heard of the Venus de Milo before? Some people believe it's one of the most beautiful carved sculptures. The body proportions are just beautiful on it. They got very good at this. Now, here's kind of the deal. When they had females that were half naked, for the most part, they almost looked as if they were caught in the act that they were not clothed. And they would have a face of, oh, you caught me, you're looking at me, don't look at me. They would have their arms over their body. The thing about this sculpture is, her face doesn't look like that, one. Two, there's a sense of mystery, because we're not actually sure of what exactly were the arms and hands doing. It doesn't really look like she was trying to cover herself up. She might have been maybe slightly pulling her garment up or down, we don't know. But there's this sense of, what did she actually look like? And that mystery has made her famous. I've seen different renditions of where they have put arms on her and she's holding a cat. I've seen where she's drinking something or eating a piece of pizza. We're not sure. This has been a parody over and over again. That's why it's famous. It's Venus de Milo. But for the most part, it was a goddess. And that's what the Greek people did, was a lot of times they sculpted the goddesses and gods, for the most part. So very, very famous piece. The Greeks carved it, Venus de Milo. The folds in here are absolutely beautiful. The muscles, absolutely beautiful. The fourth one that I would like you to write down.
Artist was the Greeks.
Or didn't I have that?
Alexander.
Yeah,
I had
Alexander.
Alexander down, but then you said it was the Greeks.
No, yeah, I was just talking in general. Great question. Here, we're not sure exactly who carved this, so this will be the Greeks. This is the Nike of Samothrace. Nike. You guys think of your tennis shoes, clothing apparel. Nike is actually a goddess of victory, which makes sense why Nike company is called Nike. It's the goddess of victory. This is actually in the Louvre. We've shown you guys the Louvre. That was that one with the big glass pyramid outside of it. Massive museum. You go downstairs, and then to get up to the second floor, you go up these huge grand staircases. And this is dead center in that grand staircase. This is quite large. When you actually go up to it, it's on a huge pedestal. So if you were to go up to it, that pedestal starts about where the lights are. And then this sculpture is there. And this sculpture is way bigger than life size. It's pretty cool to come up to. Notice, yes, these are wings. Her wings coming out of there. She doesn't have arms. They were cut off. Her head's cut off. Some people are like, well, why is that? Well, imagine you are going into another country and you're conquering them. Do you want them, the people that are left, do you want them worshiping their gods, or do you want them worshiping your gods? yours. So you might want to destroy all of their gods and goddesses. So they would dehead or break apart every sculpture they could find, so that way they weren't worshiping them. Which is ironic because they got conquered. The goddess of victory got conquered. The ironic part of it. But very, very beautiful piece. The way that these are, the folds in there. Again, someday I'm going to have a virtual reality thing where I can put it down, hologram. We could actually see this in person and how big it would be in person. Someday. But that is the Nike of Smooth Race. Again, it's the goddess. They're worshiping gods. The last one. This is a big one. The Parthenon. Parthenon. Correct. So the Greek goddess, there was gods, or a big Athena sculpture inside of this. This place was for worship. This was also where democracy started to happen. Not exactly, but democracy started to happen here with the Greeks, where people voted. This is the most influential building ever built. Probably the most famous building ever built. Still to this day, architects use what is in this building in their own buildings. Have you guys seen something like this before? Yeah. Where at?
White House, or not the White House,
Well,
Capitol.
Capitol, okay. The facade is based off of this. Pretty much any government building, not any, but a lot of government buildings are based off of this Parthenon design.
Greeks made it twice.
Yep. They were trying to, by the way, this building was they were trying to make the most perfect building. That was their whole goal. And they did. But here's the ironic thing. We're going to talk about this here in a second. Oh, by the way, Ikintos and Kallikrates are the architects of this. Acropolis is the hill that it's on, so that's where it's located at. It's made of marble. Now notice, it's not in the best of shapes, correct? Yeah, it looks worn out, right? Yeah, war. I can't remember which battle it was, but what happened was this. It used to be nice and beautiful. They used to have sculptures all up here. You can see one still left. Sculptures. A lot of marble was taken away and stolen. But what happened was, thousands of years later, one of the conquering people decided, hey, let's store all of our weapons and gunpowder in this room right here. Let's just put it all in one spot. And some genius was like, hey, if we shoot a rocket, since this is wide open, a rocket straight through there, and that's what happened. And the rocket hit that centerpiece with all the gunpowder, boom, blew the top off of it, as you can see right now.
Must have been lit.
Yeah, it was lit. Oh, not gonna lie, if there's one thing that I would like to see in history, it would be that. Because it was the most perfect building ever created. So, with this, if you were to go there now, it does not look like this because they have a huge, massive scaffolding system over top of it. They are in a year process, 50 years, could go up to 100 years, of trying to rebuild this piece by piece with the original pieces. They're going around, and it started, I think, in the 80s, taking every piece that they have and digitally scanning it in a 3D printer, or I should say 3D scanner, and putting it into this massive computer jigsaw system. Now here's the deal. Every piece or every column is different. So if I found the top of this column or a column inside, I can't just put them on a random column. It has a specific spot in there. Also, they're missing chunks, so they're having to hand carve, and they're not clean cuts, all these rough pieces to put in there and remake certain parts of it. So it's a massive jigsaw puzzle. Here is the reason why it is so influential and why they consider it one of the perfect buildings. It has a bone ratio, which we'll talk about later, so the width compared to the length. But here's the crazy thing. Ikintos and Kallikrates understood optical illusions. They understood, you guys know how your eye isn't flat? It's round, right? It's a lens. It's round. Well, have you guys ever taken a photo of where you take something that's like rectangular or even a person and it seems bowed out? Like, it's bowed. It's because the lens is curved. It's bowing it out. They realized if we want a building to look exactly straight, and we step back from it, what happens is our eye bows the image, and it's going to look weird. So I'm going to turn on the lights and show you what. If we were to want to have a building that is completely straight, so you guys can see this, we want it to look like this from the sides, right, top and bottom. But our eyes bow it. If we were to step back and build it exactly straight, it would look like this. We don't want it to look like that. So what they actually did was they created it like this. It bows. So actually from this corner to the dead in the center, it's about 14 inches higher over in the center. That's a good chunk. But when you step back, it looks perfect. Also with that, you guys, we talked about one-point perspective, right? One-point perspective. They realized if I'm standing down like a skyscraper, you know how it looks like it's going to one point and you're looking up at it? They realized that. So they said if we did this, if we just had the columns, like here's my top, here's my bottom, if we had our columns exactly straight mathematically, they would look like this. Going up to a perspective point. We don't want that. So what they actually did was bow out all the columns. Where it's straight up and down. And they bowed them out. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but they're bowed out, actually. Also with that, they realized if we have two columns next to each other, here's a column, here's a column. Because of how light reacts, and have you guys ever seen a photo where the white of the light like blurs it out because it's such a strong light? Okay, it blurs out, so there's a strong sunset. It curves it. They realized if they had two columns side by side, and there's this empty space that light's going through, it would look like this. It would look like it's curved. So all of the columns are actually curved, like that. So mathematically, this is a perfect building that's imperfect. It's perfect to look at, but mathematically it's one of the most complicated things ever. And that's why it is very famous that they did it back then. One of the most influential buildings ever created. Sadly, it was halfway destroyed. Maybe by the time you guys are retired and traveling the world, hopefully you can go and see this building that's totally rebuilt. Hopefully. But right now, if you were to go there, there's a scaffolding system halfway around. Here, I just want to show you, well, there's where the columns were. This is an artist rendering of what it looked like back in the day. You can see how immaculate it was. Oh, they also had a huge Athena sculpture up there. But that's what it originally looked like. Last part I'm going to show you is two vocabulary words. We're going to talk about columns here. Doric and Ionic. Doric and Ionic. You're going to need to be able to identify these two columns for me on an opportunity. We're going to talk about columns. It seems weird. It's like, why are we talking about columns? Well, if you were to go into pretty much any building, I would bet, I'd put money on it because about 90% of the time, that the top of the columns are either Doric, which is a simplified top, or Ionic, which later they developed, that looks like a scroll. And or a third one, which we'll talk about with the Romans that they developed. If you go to any public building down in Des Moines, I know this because I look around at the stuff because I'm a geek like that. You look up, oh, they got Doric columns right now. Or, oh, they got Ionic columns. Architects love their columns and what they, or the kind of link to the past. But Doric is a simplified one. Ionic is these scrolls that look like that. But we'll come back to this next week with the Romans. Make sure you could. If I threw up photos, could you identify what these are? All right. One quick thing I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you an image. I'm going to hit this point over top of the head that some of you may need to restart today, even though you just barely started. I'm going to show you a drawing from Callan Page. It's a really nice drawing. What do you notice that is wrong with this?
You have a line.
There's no lines. That's on purpose. That's not wrong.
The
The
Not that.
shoulder.
Not the, yes.
The hair it goes from brown to black.
Yeah, really? That's all artistic choice. There's nothing wrong with that right now. I've taken the picture. What might you see?
Oh, the
Shoulder.
background?
White around it. The line and then.
Yeah.
I was trying to consider this for a state art piece. I have to submit it digitally. Yeah, I could take a half an hour on Photoshop and get rid of that. But if they were to select it, I have to send the original in, and they would reject it because it has this huge fold in it. We never want to fold our art pieces, ever. We never even want to crease the art piece. It's like I've had where it's an immaculate drawing. Immaculate. The paper looks like this, okay? It looks all crinkled. It's like receiving a beautiful present with dog poop smeared on the ribbon. Okay? We don't want that. We don't want that. So please, if you started already and you already slightly folded or crimped your actual drawing, start over for me, please. Start over. All right? The rest of the time is for you guys to work. Try to get to where you've got all the major shapes in by tomorrow.